From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Top of the morning, everyone. Good morning. Happy Monday, January 20th, 2025. Martin Luther King Day. So happy Martin Luther King Day. Also, Inauguration Day. Welcome to the 47th president. 45th also. 47th President Donald J. Trump will be inaugurated in just a few short hours in our nation's capital. His success is our success as a nation, so we wish him God's speed as this administration takes oath of office today and begins to lead America. So good luck to President Donald J. Trump and the entire administration. We have a lot to talk about today, including TikTok. And President Trump already letting his feelings known about TikTok, throwing a lifeline. We'll talk about that on today's show. A lot of stuff happening in the winding days of the Biden administration into transition into Trump. In fact, when I looked it up, it was more activity than during any other transition in history. Just saying a lot. But nonetheless, there's some stuff happening that every practitioner should be aware of because it's kind of the trend of what will likely happen here. Going into the next 4 years, as well as some vulnerabilities and some stories that you don't want to miss. So let's go ahead and get this show going today. Join me for a coffee cup cheers this morning. I've got my double espresso coffee cup cheers, y'all. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Let's start off with this TikTok ban. So TikTok on Friday, the Supreme Court upheld TikTok's shutdown order. And on Sunday, TikTok went dark for a little bit. And then there was some movement, some tweets going on. And then if you follow President Trump on Truth Social, you know, he kind of went out and said, this isn't good. As a result of President Trump's efforts, TikTok is back in the U.S., the company said, saying President Trump has given TikTok 90 days. So here's the deal with this. So TikTok is a national security concern. Obviously, it feeds data into the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. Its owner, ByteDance. Obviously, there's some national security implications with its ownership structure and the ownership's relationship with China. And if you know China, you know that there's no major company in China that's not in one way or another in bed with the Chinese government. And so Congress's move and the Supreme Court's ruling all justify that. Now, President Trump here isn't throwing a lifeline to cancel the ban, but rather what he's saying it by executive order is, I'm going to extend and I'm going to give you 90 days to sell the company to a U.S. entity out of at least a 50% share, meaning you don't have to sell the whole entity, but you've got to bring in you've got to bring in an American partner at least 50% stock ownership. Now, this is something very, very interesting because if you've ever done business overseas, if you get away from cyber for just a moment and you look at business overseas in many countries abroad, when you want to go open a company, they often require you to have a local partner who has some interest in some shares in your company. In some countries, it's 10%, in others, it's 40%, in others, it's 50%, and so forth and so forth. And so this move by President Trump might start indicating some of the requirements that are going to come here. Now, I, on Friday, wrote an article around the TikTok ban after the Supreme Court came out Saturday morning. For those that are paid subscribers on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com, you get those absolutely free when they go live as part of your subscription. If you're not a subscriber and you don't support our podcast, don't worry. You don't miss out on that content. You just get it a few weeks later once it's no longer free. And then every Saturday we drop, obviously, new articles that are exclusive to our subscribers, and then our free subscribers, which we appreciate every single person, get those free anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks later, depending on the relevancy of that specific article. So even before the weekend, Trump planned to have TikTok chief executive Chow at his inauguration, along with other U.S. tech luminaries, including Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and many of the others that will be at the inauguration today. So the law signed by President Biden in April after passing with bipartisan support in Congress. So this is nothing new here. So they're asking companies not to let TikTok go dark. Trump wrote in a post on Sunday morning on his own platform, Truth Social. He said he'll bring an executive order that will pave the way for a deal to do that. Now, and I said this, and I want to go back to my Saturday article. I said that this is going to be leverage that Trump is going to use with the Chinese, and it appears that over the weekend also, the rumor was that within the next 30 days, Trump will be headed to China for a meeting with Xi Jinping in order to kind of try to get some negotiations going with the Chinese. But if not, nothing else. This gives kind of like the 90-day timing that the Trump administration is looking for, because you got to remember, X, Facebook, they don't operate in China. And Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, they have the ear of the president. They're obviously saying, look, we'd love to work in China, but TikTok's operating in the US. It's eating up market share, but we can eat market share in China. That doesn't seem fair. And it seems like Trump may be trying to use the China rule in the US, saying if you're a social media platform, you come and you want to do business in the US, you got to have US ownership. Now, mind you, the detractor of what happened here with TikTok is RedNote. RedNote, another Chinese Communist Party app, was number one in the Android and Google and the Apple and the Android Google Play Store. So people kind of went there for more communist propaganda. All in all, this week and the next 90 days are crucial for TikTok. We'll see exactly how that happens. Trump said he wants the U.S. to have at least a 50% ownership position in the joint venture in doing this by TikTok. And by that, he says we save TikTok. So TikTok is on life support for the next 90 days. We'll see if anything does happen there. The Treasury Department on Friday announced sanctions in connection with the massive Salt Typhoon breach. The sanctions target a Chinese hacker who officials say is affiliated with Beijing's Ministry of State Security and who was involved in the cyber intrusion disclosed last month to the Treasury Department workstations. Also targeted is a China-based cybersecurity company the U.S. officials say has direct links to the Chinese hacking group known as Salt Typhoon, which is believed to be responsible for the Telecom breach. Now, here's the thing about this. The person whose sanctions is Ying Kecheng, who's based in Shanghai, but in the company Sichuan Janisky Network Technology cannot engage in any business transactions in the U.S. And similarly, now this puts them at risk with other transactions abroad, simply because if they transact with other companies abroad, those companies could face charges from the Treasury or sanctions themselves. So Friday's sanctions does not provide any new details on the scope of the breach in the Treasury, but it does tell you that they know where to point the finger. For that end, the FCC is trying to get off its back end here on its final days as over there, FCC Commissioner Rosenworcel tries to save her tail as she leaves the seat, and Brandon Carr will be taking over as FCC chairman. They've ordered U.S. telecoms to now secure their networks following the Salt Typhoon security breach. Now, mind you, the FCC, and this isn't just Chairwoman Rosenworcel here. Let's just be completely clear and transparent about that. She's another one of those nooks in the place that just overlooked cybersecurity requirements for telecom companies. The law was a 1994 law that was passed by Congress requiring telecoms to secure their networks. That law was never enforced, and so you have the Salt Typhoon breach. The FCC's ruling now is a critical step to require U.S. Telecom to improve cybersecurity to meet today's nation-state threats, including those from China's well-sourced and sophisticated offensive cyber program. So we'll see if how Chairman Carr will, once he takes over the FCC this week, and how that happens. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem had her hearing confirmation on Friday, and she talked a lot about cyber, but she primarily talked about CISA. And on Friday, if you missed my episode with Andy Ellis, we kind of talked a little bit about CISA. CISA became too political, both under the first director, Chris Krebs, and then later on by a magnificent director, Jen Easterly, who's done an unbelievable job. But then again, they've politicized CISA, trying to wear that armor, that superhero armor that many people in security feel the urge to sometimes wear. And by doing that, they've actually weakened CISA's position but in a bipartisan manner in almost some cases, right? So Multiple Republican senators used the hearing to bash CISA's work on misinformation and disinformation, including some of the 2020 presidential election and COVID-19, saying CISA helped violate Americans' First Amendment. And again, you see that. And if you go outside of our circle, and we all love the folks who work with us, CISA. And when CISA is in the private sector, when it's doing the work it does, it's extremely valuable. It's an unbelievable organization. And Jen Easterly, in doing that, did an amazing job. However, she did fail at reducing politics at CISA. In fact, she increased the life of politics within CISA. She politicized CISA to the point where now we may have a weaker CISA under the Trump administration when we need a stronger, more robust CISA to do the work along critical infrastructure. Noam, and her end, said that she sees CISA as being a small, nimble organization ready to fulfill their mission. And that mission is to hunt and harden, to find those bad actors and work with local and state critical infrastructure entities so that they can be prepared for cyber attacks. If confirmed, she pledges to move the agency away from efforts like misinformation, disinformation. If you remember, there was an idea early on back in 2021 to do like a truth kind of very Orwellian department, and CISA was supposed to be somewhere involved in that as well. Again, the politicization of CISA will hurt cybersecurity communities to come because of that. And right now, the person who's kind of looking at taking over the director role, according to multiple news outlet reports, is Sean Planke, who is likely going to be receiving the nod as the next director of CISA. He was served as the director of Maritime and Pacific Cybersecurity Policy on Trump's initial NSC, that's the National Security Council, before shifting to the Energy Department's Office of Cybersecurity, Energy Security, and Emergency Response. So a very, very good pick there for the next director of CISA. And we'll get more information as that becomes available. And President Trump's announced his appointment at this time. These are all just rumors. That's not yet the case. Treasury has been really busy, including OFAC, slapping more sanctions on 2 individuals and 4 entities involved in generating illicit funds for North Korea as part of the fake IT worker scheme that had so many companies fall victim to it. The U.S. announced charges against 14 North Korean nationals involved in the scheme, estimating they funneled nearly $88 million to the North Korean government. Again, they're doing that through fake IT scams and so forth. So some of those companies, more sanctions there. And you can obviously see the speed of identifying an attack, finding the person, names, and so forth has gotten much, much better. This used to take years before, now it's taken months. Just shows you just how fast that's going. Now let's shift a little bit here to some news here. Sorry, this is like really off screen here today. I apologize for that. That shouldn't be the case. So Microsoft has uncovered Russian intelligence agencies using spear phishing to target victims with QR codes and WhatsApp group chats. The threat intelligence team of Microsoft documented the discovery associated with Star Blizzard, shifting its longstanding spear tactics to focus on WhatsApp groups. According to Microsoft, the Kremlin-backed cyber spies are reaching out to typical targets like government and diplomatic figures, defense policy researchers, and organizations offering assistance to the Ukraine through email that contain intentionally broken QR codes. When the recipient responds, they send a second email containing a safe link wrapped in a .ly shortened link as an alternative to link to join a WhatsApp group. When that link is followed, the target is redirected to a web page asking them to scan a QR code to join the group. They know that the QR code actually used by WhatsApp to connect to an account linked to a device and our WhatsApp web portal. That means that if the target follows the instructions, the threat actor can gain access to their WhatsApp account. If you've never done that, really, really easy, a smart technique, very simple, yet very, very trustworthy. People take it and run with it. And that's the case here with the Russians having success with that. The Costa Rica refinery cyber attack was the first deployment for the new U.S. response program, according to Ambassador. A potentially catastrophic ransomware attack on Costa Rica's largest oil refinery last year was the first real test for the U.S. State Department's new rapid response tool for cybersecurity incident. The department's cyber bureau tapped for foreign assistance, leveraged the cybersecurity operational needs, or Falcon, one of several U.S. initiatives developed to help bolster allies and infuse global digital norms with American values. The goal was to provide swift and decisive support, and we delivered, according to Nate Fick, Ambassador at Large for cyberspace and digital policies. He said Falcon is meant to be used best in breed private sector incident response capabilities across a number of vendors, ideally within 48 hours of initial request. In this inaugural case, that was around 36 hours. The U.S. government has previously acknowledged that they sent a team to Costa Rica, but didn't specify that it was through Falcon. Costa Rica has become a frequent target for cyber actors in recent years. This one showed the need for international cooperation, and a successful one when it happens between allies. So some news there. A wide spectrum of data that's being shared by employees through Gen AI is concerning researchers over its ability to actually be used in the next generation of large language models used by many of these organizations. According to researchers at Harmonic, they analyzed thousands of prompts submitted by users into Gen AI platforms like Copilot, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Claude, and Perplexity. In their research, they discovered that though in many cases employee behavior in using these tools was straightforward, like wanting to summarize a piece of text, edit a blog, or some other relatively simple task, there was a subset of requests, about 8.5%, that had sensitive data. The sensitive data that employees were sharing often falls into one of 5 categories, like customer data, employee data, legal and finance, security, and sensitive code. Customer data holds the largest share of sensitive data prompts at almost 45%. And again, the need to secure AI tools is critical for practitioners in 2025. If you're ignoring AI by saying we have a policy that says don't, you are leaving yourself blind and you will get blindsided. So please address that. Plenty of vendors out there, I won't name them, but if you need help, reach out to me either through Substack, LinkedIn, or YouTube. Glad to point you in the right direction there. And finally, a malicious package named PyCord Shelf on the Python package index, that's PyPy, targeted Discord developers. It stole authentication tokens and planted a backdoor for remote control over the system. The package mimics the discord.py-self, which has 28 million downloads and offers the functionality of the legitimate project. The official package is a Python library that allows communication with Discord's user API and permits developers to control accounts programmatically. It is typically used for messaging and automating interactions, creating of Discord bots, scripting automated moderation, notification of responses, and running commands or retrieving data from Discord without a bot account. According to Socket, the malicious package was added to PyPy last year in June and had around 885. It's been downloaded 885 times. At the time, the package was still available on PyPy. So there's that, something to keep in mind if you're using that at all, especially Discord, extremely popular within our own community. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, live from the great state of New York, where we'll be this week. So hit me up if you're in that area. Until then, have a great rest of your day, y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in. Godspeed to the incoming administration. Again, whether you voted for President Trump or not, his success is our country's success, and we all wish him well. On behalf of myself and the team here at the CyberHub Podcast, thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day, and most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.